Hey, I'm Kilah, and since becoming a mom, I struggled with mental illness and just feeling so depleted. That was 9 years ago. And then I realized that so many moms are just like I was. I finally reclaimed my health holistically, and I want to teach you how to do the same. Whether you're newly postpartum or a few years in, this podcast is for you. It's time to recover your health so that you can show up as the mom that you deeply desire to be. This is the Healthy Postpartum Mama podcast. Let's learn and heal together. Hi everyone, it's Kilah Lawson, and I first want to say welcome to our very first episode of the Healthy Postpartum Mama podcast. So this episode is going to be more of an intro before we dive into the juicy content where we talk about all of the things that nobody really is talking about when it comes to postpartum. I wanted to just chill with you guys, connect with you guys, and share with you what this podcast is going to be about, what you can expect week after week. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. First, I want to share a little bit about myself. So again, my name is Kilah, and I live in St. Louis metro area. I am the owner and founder of the first, and as far as I know, the only postpartum care agency that extensively supports moms within their first few years postpartum. I am a postpartum doula, and I am a postpartum vitality coach. And to get really into the personal details, I am a fire wife and a mom of five. All right, you got all that. But I am so excited about this podcast. I feel like it's been a long time coming. A lot of you all who are tuning in have been connected with me on Facebook for quite some time, and you guys have kind of watched my journey as I have reclaimed my health since having 5 children back to back. My kids are we had them very close together. My oldest is only 9 and our youngest is 3. So within the last year, I have been taking steps to overcome my own health struggles. And in the process, just really working with moms one-to-one as a postpartum doula, I soon realized that so many women are struggling with their health after childbirth. And I'm not talking about weeks into your postpartum journey or even months into the postpartum journey, but struggling with their health years into their postpartum journey. And should I even dare to say decades after giving birth? Today, in this episode, I am going to address the question, why are so many women struggling after childbirth? Why are so many women struggling during their postpartum time? And before I answer that question, I do want you guys to just be very comfortable. This is a space where, again, I know that we're not in person, but I want you to just get comfortable. Use this as an opportunity to just take some time to yourself. If you need to go turn on the tablet for the kids or lay them down for a nap so that you can get a few minutes to just really have a time to reset and listen to this podcast, awesome. Do that. Take off your bra, grab a cup of tea. Today, I am drinking mint tea. This is one of my favorite herbs, peppermint. But yeah, get relaxed, pause the video if you need to, and get comfy. All right, so why are so many women struggling after childbirth? Let's answer that question because that's the whole reason for this podcast. The reason for this podcast is to help you to reclaim your health so that you can become the mother that you truly desire to be throughout your entire motherhood journey. But before we reclaim our health, we have to talk about some truths that I quite frankly feel like we kind of ignore and neglect within our society. Some things that are unexpected that so many women are experiencing in their postpartum journeys. I think I mentioned that we first must define what postpartum is. If I didn't mention that, sorry. It's my ADD mama brain coming out. Probably a reason why I should not be doing a podcast, because I might be repeating myself over and over again, but bear with me, y'all, okay? Let's define postpartum. So in the American culture, postpartum is seen as, it's also known as the fourth trimester, and it's seen as the first few weeks after giving birth. And I'm here to really challenge that definition because I want to acknowledge the fact that so many women are experiencing the direct impact of childbirth months and years into their postpartum journey. I believe around at least 30% of women are diagnosed with an autoimmune issue within their first year postpartum. We're getting a new definition for postpartum depression and other postpartum mood and anxiety disorders so that we can include that the onset of symptoms can actually arise and occur far beyond what we originally thought. So some sources cite postpartum depression, the symptoms triggering a year, or even 2 to 3 years beyond when you initially had your baby. So I think it's pretty fair to acknowledge the fact that postpartum in America, it's different because we don't treat it, first of all, like other cultures treat postpartum. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But we need to acknowledge that postpartum and the impact of childbirth can truly be much longer than what we are subscribing to. And so when moms come to me and they tell me, oh, well, I had my baby 2 years ago, or I had my baby 4 years ago, am I still postpartum? I say, girl, just subscribe to whatever aligns with you. You had a baby. Technically, postpartum means after childbirth. So you could be 10 years down your postpartum journey, or have had a baby 20 years ago. If you want to subscribe to still being postpartum, hey, I cannot knock you for it. This is the entire reason why Elephant Baby, our innovative postpartum care agency, why we support moms in their first few years. And I keep it fluid. I don't say first 2 years or 3 years. It's your first few years. And if you come to our website looking for support and your youngest baby is 4 or 5 years old, then guess what? You're going to get served. You're going to get supported. All right. So now that we've defined, quote unquote, we've redefined, I guess, what postpartum actually is. Let's answer the question as to why so many moms are struggling in their first few years postpartum. My answer for that question, I think I want to give 3 answers to that question. The first answer is because of the way that our society views postpartum, the way that we treat postpartum. Now, I'm going to give you an example. After I had my last, we actually birthed at home. I say we, but it was me. My husband was there. I birthed at home unassisted. I decided that my previous 3 children I gave birth in a birthing center. My first birth was given at a hospital. I had an epidural, but all the other 4 I did natural, and our last was at home unassisted. And that is very different than what most women are doing in our society. But after I had my 5th, we actually immediately transferred to the hospital, where I experienced abuse. I experienced being unheard. I experienced medical bullying from the staff at a local hospital here. And I was just treated very terribly. The reason that we decided to transfer was because we were concerned about possible hemorrhage. And there was so much going on when I actually gave birth. And if I could look back, I just really wish that I would have given myself time and implemented all the stuff that I knew about, what you should do at home if there's possible hemorrhage. But I don't want to get into the details of my birth story. That might be for another episode. But at the end of the day, we ended up transferring, and it led into what I believe a downward spiral of depression. And anybody that knows me and knows my journey knows how openly I talk about how I have experienced depression, depletion, and that started when I began having children. But my depression, it's very weird to describe because sometimes when you think of depression, you think, oh, well, depression only, like, when will my depression end? Like, when will it stop? And the truth in my case, and what I believe to be the case of many women, is that it's not going to stop, or it's not going to get better. Your health is not going to get better, including your mental health, until we take the steps necessary to completely reclaim and recover. Now, some women say, well, things that I'm starting to feel like myself, and they may ease, back, they just may start feeling themselves again. But for me, it felt like depression came in waves and seasons. And since starting my journey to motherhood, I truly just feel that I always struggle with depression off and on. It would almost come like in seasons where I would have really depressive symptoms, where things like struggling to do everyday tasks, experiencing postpartum rage, that hopelessness, that sadness, and then also the connection with my physical symptoms, not being able to really get restorative sleep. All of those things, I felt like they never truly fully went away, but they were more intense in specific seasons. And so I say all of that to say that when I left the hospital, I showed up at home and there was a lot going on with my family. My husband was finishing up fire academy and he wasn't there to support me. Our families weren't there like they were normally there to support us. And on top of that, the hospital staff called CPS on us, and they claimed the reason why they called CPS was because we chose to delay our baby's bath, which there are so many benefits to delayed bath. I don't think we'll talk about that in a later episode, but Google it. But yeah, it was a bunch of BS is what it was. And like I said, I experienced bullying and abuse in the hospital, and it led into what I feel was my most severe episode of depression. And I feel like my situation after my fifth, even though I had the most knowledge on how postpartum should be, because at that time I had just finished my full spectrum training to become a doula, and I had started researching, what was needed in order to be an effective postpartum doula, and what postpartum mothers needed to truly recover in their postpartum time. So I knew what should be happening, and there was such a disconnect because my postpartum time, I felt like, was out of my control, and it just, again, led into a downward spiral of depression. And unfortunately, so many women are just like me, and where we're either experiencing birth trauma, where we're not being heard, something traumatic happens during our birth, or immediately postpartum, and it sets the stage for the rest of our postpartum time. And so the issue really is how we address labor, delivery, birth as a society. I mean, we could talk about maternal mortality. We can talk about how the US, out of all developed nations, we are really one of the worst when it comes to prenatal care and also just maternal health outcomes. But the reason that so many moms are experiencing health issues is because of the way that our society treats this time. Again, like, birth in America is terrible. And postpartum, I want to say, it might be even worse just because it's non-existent. We have this whole idea of a 6-week checkup. Nobody really knows. I shouldn't say nobody really knows, but it's almost as if our healthcare system doesn't even know why that 6-week checkup is there. It's like we took pieces of what other cultures do, because a lot of other cultures do honor a 6-week time of recovery, or 40 days of rest. So we kind of got that time frame, where moms, should be encouraged, mothers, to truly rest. But I think the only thing that's standing is the fact that, hey, after 6 weeks, we're going to check to see if you're okay. And what that typically looks like is You go to your doctor, they might give a little assessment to see, if you're showing signs of depression or anxiety, and they're quick to write a script for depression. They might even ask you if you want some birth control. I had a client that I worked with last year, and she told me, well, it wasn't last year, maybe a year and a half ago, because this was during COVID. And she told me that her doctor, she had got stitches, made her check her stitches on a video call. Like, she's literally trying to check the condition of her stitches on a video call. Now, if you want to sum up postpartum care in America, that's what a lot of women are experiencing. The postpartum time is non-existent. So there's issues and flaws within the medical system. And far beyond that, but just the way that our society as a whole, when we look at how our jobs are treating the postpartum time, there's not any federal regulations on paid maternal leave. So that's a problem. There's just this expectation for moms to snap back and to get back to who they were before they had their babies. And we see it all over Instagram. If you search the hashtag postpartum health or postpartum fitness, it's a mom who's running marathons, or she's hiking and climbing mountains, and she's a superhero because she's doing all the things or even more things than she was doing before she had her baby. In other cultures, we see common themes when it comes to postpartum healing. The number one theme is rest. Okay. A lot of other cultures are really emphasizing the need, don't do anything, don't get up to do anything. The most important thing is for you to rest. Another key theme across other cultures who truly honor the postpartum time is the theme of bonding with your baby. Those are like the most two important things: rest, bonding with your baby, proper nutrition, in which warming foods that are easily digestible are encouraged, where family members are coming to live in with mom so that she can actually recover and not have to do all these things, or where mom is going to live in with family members so again she can truly rest, replenish, and not experience depletion months and years down the road, which is what we're seeing in American society. So first off, a 6-week checkup is not enough. And the way that we treat, and when we get down to the nitty gritty, just the way that, think about how your friends and your family treated you during your postpartum time. It's very rare that we see a village mentality, just because I think a lot of that has to do with the individualism of our country. But maybe people came to bring you meals the first week postpartum and then you're on your own. Like, there was no true collectivism in which people rallied together to ensure that you were healing. So that's issue number one. Just the way that we view things as a society, I believe, is what is causing so many mothers to really struggle within their postpartum time. My second reason, I kind of chatted about this with the way that we view postpartum as a society, but a big reason why so many women are struggling is lack of support. I was leading into this, y'all. So lack of support is a huge reason why so many mothers are struggling with their health in their first few years postpartum. We're not supported by our partners. It's almost like we have to figure out, how to take care of this tiny human, how to navigate motherhood and newborn care and care for ourselves. Like, there's such a heavy load on us as mothers, where, everything mentally, the mental load is it's very heavy in our favor. And the actual physical load, where we're having to maintain the home still. And so many of us struggle. Like, if you're anything like me, I struggled after having my babies because I could not be in a home. I mean, it wasn't with every child and it wasn't with every season, but in so many seasons, I found myself just being unable to rest and relax because my house was a mess. Who can relax when there's Cheetos all over the floor, when you need to scrub the bathrooms because the bathrooms haven't been clean in over a week? And so these are the things that we are dealing with as mothers, that just the heavy load that we carry and that we're often carrying alone. Again, lack of collectivism within community, lack of help from our partners. Our partners Like, why should we have to tell them this is how I need you to help? And then so many of us have an issue even vocalizing, hey, we need this help in this area, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother podcast. So reason number one, so many of us are struggling in our first few years postpartum is the way that society treats and views postpartum. Number two is lack of support. And then I would say the third and final reason is just the lack of education and resources that empower mothers to truly replenish all that was lost. So the lack of education starts with the very fact that we don't even understand the dynamic and the shift that happens when we become postpartum. So many of us, like, I remember after I had my first, I was in the hospital, I was hungry, and I told my husband, I was like, give me an Emo's pizza. Emo's is one of the best pizzas here in the St. Louis area, and I was craving some Emo's pizza. And I said, give me an Emo's pizza. I had no clue of the shift that I had just experienced within my postpartum body. And a lot of women do not know that when you're pregnant, your body is just completely, we might recognize this a little bit more than we do for the postpartum time, but your body is completely, it's doing everything that it can to nourish your baby in utero. That continues. Like the actual, when you're in labor and the actual moment that your baby enters earthside, the delivery process, your body is stripped of so many minerals, so many nutrients, and there's so many changes to your postpartum body, including your digestive system changes. A lot of cultures call this the digestive fire, but the digestive fire weakens and it makes it more difficult for your body to just properly digest foods. And we'll get to this in future episodes, but this is the whole reason why it's so necessary for you to be eating the appropriate foods to support the changes of your postpartum body. It's not the time, y'all hear me say this all the time if you are following me on Instagram or Facebook. It's not the time to be eating a bunch of smoothies or drinking a bunch of smoothies or eating a bunch of salads. The postpartum time, especially immediately postpartum, is a time for easily digestible foods that are warming to the body, foods that are soothing to the digestive tract and are going to aid in digestion. Because if this doesn't happen, then it causes a slew of issues, long term, because you're ruining your digestive system. And your digestive system is the key to absorbing nutrients. So are we making the connection? Because if you're not able to absorb nutrients, then guess what? You're going to experience things like postpartum hair loss. You're going to experience things like depression, anxiety. Okay. So we'll talk about all of this and all of this will be connected. But these are the three reasons why I believe that so many women are struggling within their first few years postpartum. We have no clue, first off, that we could even overcome and reclaim our health. And even if there's a little flicker of hope that, hey, we can reclaim our health, we have no clue how to do it. So this is the reason, again, for the Healthy Postpartum Mama podcast. I'm going to walk along with you and guide you and give you the steps. We're going to have conversations about just like, again, all the things that we're not talking about, the real reason for postpartum hair loss, the real reason why your teeth are cracking and falling out, the real reason why you're experiencing an autoimmune issue immediately after, within a year after having your baby. All right. We're not only just going to talk about the physical, we're going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about it all, everything that's related to postpartum. So if you're a new mom who is planning for postpartum, or you've just had your baby, or even if you're a few years in, I just truly feel like this podcast will be of value to you, because a lot of what I'm going to tell some of our more seasoned moms is, well, let's go back to the beginning of what we missed, because a lot of recovering your health has to do with what should have been done when you first had your baby. So really what I want to accomplish during our time together, as you're listening into the podcast every single week, is just me sharing with you practically what you can do to prevent common postpartum issues and to reclaim your health if you're further along into your journey. So I have a very easy way that we can remember what I believe to be the 7 pillars of postpartum wellness. And so when you think of my 7 pillars, think of my nurture method. All right. We're going to go through each letter of the word nurture so that we can address what aspects are crucial when it comes to recovering your health. All right. Let's start with N. N is nourishing your body. All right. So important. It's really the foundation of all health, especially postpartum health. The U in the nurture method stands for utilizing help. And I know some of you are probably already thinking, like, I don't have anybody who can help me. Like, I'm alone in this. And when we talk about utilizing help, I'm going to teach you how you can build your tribe. Okay, what you need to do in order to make community a priority in your life so that you are not lonely and that you're not doing everything alone. We're going to discuss things like setting boundaries, because boundaries are crucial when you have people in your space who just are helping you along in your motherhood journey. And sometimes we lose sight of that when we're dealing with friends or especially family members. So we're going to talk about all of that when it comes to truly recovering your health. So we have NU, the next is R. The first R, we're really going to focus on resting and resetting and what that really should look like. On a practical level. Resting is not just, the sleep that you're getting at night. And some of you may be thinking, what sleep? And I get it, trust me. But the foundation of your rest that happens at night is really what you're doing, what practices you're implementing throughout the day, restorative practices that you are consistently implementing throughout the day. So we have NUR. T is tending to your soul. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm sure there's many of you listening in who just feel like, I've lost myself in motherhood. Everything revolves around my children. Everything revolves around my family. I really don't even know who I am outside of being a mother. And tending to your soul really provides us the opportunity to connect to ourselves on a level that's really intimate, and then soulfully connecting with others around us. So we have NURTU, and the next U is going to stand for unleashing emotion. So it has to do with the emotional baggage that we've held on to, even maybe far beyond far beyond the time you became a mother. Maybe there's some emotion that's pent up. So I want to teach you guys how unleashing emotion and addressing emotional trauma, really just being in tune with your emotions, how that's going to aid in your health recovery. So we have NURTU. The next R is all about mental health. It has to do with restoring your mind. So this is the practical things that we can implement in order to overcome things like depression, anxiety, overstimulation. And really the first thing before we get into all of that is just shifting your mindset to know and believe that you have the tools and that you have the capability to bring your body to balance and truly recover and overcome any struggles that you're dealing with since becoming a mother. And lastly, the E in our nurture method is embracing the journey. And this really has to do with adjusting. And as a mom of 5 who had her first child almost 10 years ago, I would say that it's really been within the last year, maybe year and a half, that I have truly embraced the journey of motherhood. A lot of times we are constantly just trying to go back to who we were, what we were, the things that we were doing before motherhood. And I want to make it real and practical for you. I want to just show you how you can embrace the transition, how you can embrace the journey, practical things that you can do to adjust as a mom to make sure that your needs are being fulfilled and that you're caring for yourself, all while being fulfilled and caring for your children and for your family as well. So the nurture method, those are the 7 pillars that we will be discussing all throughout the episodes of the podcast. I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited about future episodes to come. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. And I want you to do me a favor. I want you to reach out to me via email. I'm going to drop email that you can send a message to and share with me 2 things. I want you to share with me why you were drawn to the podcast in the first place And the second thing I want you to share is, what are you excited about learning as you're listening to the episodes of the podcast as we release the episodes weekly? So I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to connecting with you in the future. And again, I'm so excited. Make sure you're sharing with your friends, and I will see you guys on the next episode.